Greetings and welcome to In Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. On the eve of 60 years as an independent nation, we are talking state media at 60 with Chief Executive Officer of TTT Limited, David Roberts. Welcome, CEO Roberts. I want to wish you a blessed independence in advance. How are you at this point in time?
Hi, good evening, Dike. Thank you very much, and happy Independence Day to you as well, and to all of Trinidad and Tobago, and of course, our entire team here at TTT Limited.
And speaking of TTT Limited, state media, what to you is the significance of 60 years as an independent nation?
So for me, personally, 60 years as a nation represents us as Trinbagonians seeking to make our way in this world. As you compare Trinidad and Tobago to other nations, we are relatively young, but we have achieved many significant things. So for me, it is a continued period of growth, a continued period of learning, and I look forward to the great things that will continue to come from this Twin Island Republic.
And looking at the growth, looking at the learning, and at things to come, how does state media factor into that equation?
State media is very important, DK. It's very critical, and we don't have to look any further than the COVID-19 pandemic to really understand the critical role that state media plays. Everyone here at TTT Limited is very much aware of the significant role that we played in terms of communication during the COVID-19 pandemic. At one point, getting up to daily press briefings being held from our studios, having to transition from in-person interviews to virtual interviews, which would have been pioneered by TTT Limited at the time. So the significance of a portal that is available to the government to provide communication to the nation is very important. So COVID-19 is just one example. When we also look at any other issue around national disasters, we also function as the hub there, providing communication for the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, the Ministry of Works and Transport, the Ministry of Public Utilities, and any other state entity that will need to communicate critical information to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. So if we just take from that one standpoint, the significance of transmitting critical and timely information from the government to the population, that is one very significant role for state media. And the other role that TTT particularly has played over the years is really showing us who we are as a people, being a hub for local content. And we are trying to maintain our position in that space in terms of leading the charge in terms of the development of local content that really allows us to see stories about ourselves, hear stories about ourselves, and get a better understanding of where we've come from so that we understand exactly where we're going as a nation.
And a little further in the conversation, I want to track back to that comment in terms of being a hub and allowing us to see ourselves. But it's very interesting the way that you would have used the term a portal available to government. And that is very different to opinions that may be shared sometimes. Answer the person who says state media, nah man, state media bias.
So the question is, DK, the reality is that there isn't any unbiased media. I think what is different with TTT Limited is that it is very clear who we report to, and I'd leave it at that in terms of state. And for those who say that it's biased, we say, look at us with pure eyes and pure intentions. So yes, there will be a great percentage of government content in terms of government information, but we are state media. Our intention is never to spread any sort of propaganda, so anything that is unfounded or incorrect or inaccurate or can be damaging to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. But it is really to try as best as possible to communicate information that would improve the lives of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, to present stories that may not find themselves in other spaces or across other media platforms, and to ensure that the citizens are aware of the work that the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago are doing. Now, we function as a bit of a hybrid, where we are state media, but we also function as public media. And there's a difference between state media and public media. State media being directly communication from the government, with public media seeking the public interest. And we do have in a lot of our stories the features that we have, the information that we share, carry that public interest in terms of the information that we communicate. But I say, and I am willing to go on the record, that there's no unbiased media, not only here in Trinidad and Tobago, but throughout the world. I mean, even in writing a story, Dike, as a journalist, you do look for an angle. And in looking for an angle, that is a form of bias, right? Because you're looking for an angle to write this story. So there's no real unbiased media anywhere.
And I like that. I like that example of, yes, you're writing from a perspective, you have an angle. What are some of the challenges of bringing that story, bringing the information, bringing that perspective that may be a little different to other media houses, while most people, if not everyone, has the same font of information to work with?
That is really challenging, but it is what we need to do as our source of differentiation. You know, some people do it based on geography. Other use other forms of demographics to just really try to differentiate what they are saying, because you are correct. For the most part, except very limited cases, we have access to the same information, right? All media houses. But you are trying to find a way that is bringing across the information that is important to your viewers, important to your listeners. And sometimes we get it right, and sometimes we don't get it right. I know for sure. During this period, as we celebrated our 60 in 60, because we started our celebrations at the start of July, a lot of people have been sending comments about the type of patriotism that they were feeling in terms of looking at the comments, looking at the content that was coming out of TTT. So sometimes we do get it right, and I think during this period of celebrating independence, as we move into Republic Day in September, I think a lot of people have been very, very pleased with the level of patriotic content that we have been putting out. And that, again, is just one example of the significance of state media again. So the other media houses that are in this space, they have a very, very clear bottom line. All right, it is about them ensuring that their businesses stay afloat. For us here at TTT Limited, we are fortunate enough that we have the support of the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago to allow us to put out the type of content that will allow us to assist in nation building, allow us to assist in engendering the type of patriotism that will allow us to see 60 years to come that will be better than the 60 that have just passed.
And we continue the conversation. When we return, we are speaking with David Roberts, CEO of TTT Limited. Stay with us. We return with more. Welcome back. We are going in depth on celebrating TTT at 60. To do so, we are speaking with CEO of TTT Limited, David Roberts. And CEO Roberts, you started to speak about some of the bright spots, some of the things that TTT can draw on as part of its legacy to move forward. So itemize some of those things, because I see we have some other things to talk about in a little bit with regard to things that are happening. But what are some of those things that you say, yes, this is something that we look at, we draw from, it's a bright spot, we can take from this model and use it as we move forward?
All right. One of the things, and I'm not going to limit it to just my time at TTT Limited, but one of the things that we ought to be very, very proud of here at TTT Limited is that quite virtually anyone who is someone who's active in media today, who has been in the industry for some time, has some connection to TTT Limited, whether it is to TTT in terms of television or NBN in terms of radio. And I think that is a very, very proud legacy that we ought to maintain and we ought to uphold. in terms of our role in developing talent for the media industry in Trinidad and Tobago and the region as well. And we followed through with that in terms of the revamping of our news products. We went for new faces, fresh faces, rearranged some of the existing talent that we had in terms of putting them into new time spots. And we are very pleased in terms of the way that that has been received by viewers and also by brands and sponsors who have now attached themselves to our news product in one way or another. So we're very proud of the work that was done there, and in terms of reshaping that news product throughout the day with some focus on the 6:30 program in the evening. We continue to look at ways that we can continuously improve our news products to ensure that we remain relevant to our viewers and those who are interested in our content. In terms of just bright spots over the 60 years, Dike, to be honest with you, there were so many periods in history for Trinidad and Tobago that TTT was the only entity there to capture it. So we can start at the very beginning, which would be the lowering of the Union Jack and the hoisting of the Trinidad and Tobago flag for the very first time. We can go to the success of Hazley Crawford, but I'm sure that we will go beyond the time that you've allocated for the interview if we list the significant milestones that TTT would have covered or what would have been those bright spots over the years.
But atrophy is a thing, CEO Roberts. If you don't use it, you lose it. So yes, I hear you talking about some of the movements, but what are some of the further things, further developments that is being worked on to say, okay, well, apart from just the news product, these are things that TTT Limited is offering the landscape to help us see ourselves, to help us be proud in the way that we articulate our beings as nationals of Trinidad and Tobago.
Dike. So one of the things that I think is very significant for us at this point is our partnership with the film company of Trinidad and Tobago, Film TT. And working with them, we have access to unlimited local content that they are able to get from their creatives, and we provide the platform for those pieces of content to be aired. So whether that is on air, on TTT proper, or through our online platforms. I know that the team should now be back from what I understand is a very fruitful trip to Nigeria, again working on exclusive content for us here at TTT Limited. So I think that is another bright spot for us. We continue to also work with Music TT and also Fashion TT in terms of outfitting our personalities for some of our programs. And while some of these partnerships may seem very frivolous on the surface of it, it is really TTT looking at its role in supporting government policy, its role in the creative sector ecosystem, and ensuring that we play the best possible part that we can. We've also developed a very close working relationship with the TTMA, the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association. And again, how do we support our manufacturers who are seeking to increase and improve their contribution to the GDP of Trinidad and Tobago? How do we as a media entity provide support to these associations to assist them in terms of achieving their objectives? So those are some of the strategic partnerships that we have entered into to ensure that we go beyond our walls, go beyond our borders, and ensure that we provide human service to all of Trinidad and Tobago. In terms of actual products that we've put out, outside of using our screens, we have also put out new events in terms of, you spoke about providing an outlet for culture. And in terms of launching the Sweet Jazz, which we did for the first time this year, and it's going to be a staple on the entertainment landscape of Trinidad and Tobago, we've now provided a platform for persons to perform. Again, consistent with that particular model, the persons who are interested in that content, who listen to Sweet 100, and we are going to continue ensuring that we provide that platform for persons to perform, to express themselves. And we were very, very pleased with the outcome for the first edition, and we look forward to the 2023 edition and going forward. So just really briefly, those are some of the things that we've been doing, and I don't want to let too much out of the bag in terms of what is to come.
So that's it in a big nutshell. But I want to hark back to something that you spoke about in terms of like the importance of strategic partnerships, and I want you to take me through that again, please, because I think sometimes we have ourselves in different silos. Everybody wants money, but we have skills that we want to use the money to acquire or to get. How important is it that we are able to have these sorts of relationships where we are able to look past the fact that we don't necessarily have some resources, but still move forward, being able to share what we do?
Thanks for that. And I'll use an example that is very personal to you, Dike. One of the things that we did recently was TTT Limited would have rejoined the Caribbean Broadcasting Union, the CBU. And in rejoining the CBU, one of the reasons that the management team was motivated to rejoin the CBU was access to training. And in rejoining the CBU, we now have access to programs available through CARIMAC in University of the West Indies, Jamaica. And we are now able to expose persons, specifically in our newsroom, to training, media management training, to improve their ability to do their job, their ability to train others, and to improve the overall output that comes from TTT Limited. All right, so this is one such partnership. Over the past year, we've had members of our team who have been trained by personnel from the CNN, again, through strategic partnerships. So you're absolutely correct. We operate in an environment where resources are limited, resources in terms of financial resources, in terms of time even. But recognizing that resources are limited, we seek to find creative ways to maximize all that is available to us. So I think it will be very beneficial to TTT Limited, those persons who will be trained in those areas, and we will see the benefit of those partnerships for many years to come.
And you have my ears perking up with that thought of training, CEO. But in the minute and a half that we have remaining, what is the end goal? What are some of the things that you want to say, yes, these are things that we've been able to achieve within the work that you're doing? What are the incremental steps towards?
So the overall goal for me, Dike, the overall goal is relevance for TTT Limited and its various brands to be relevant to those people who we seek to appeal to. In terms of specifically for the news product, I would say for us to be the go-to outlet for news. We've seen it on occasions where we are first, mainly with government information. If we look particularly at the Ministry of Health statistics and those press conferences, persons come to us for that information, but persons coming to us for specific information in terms of the news product. In terms of our overall programming, being the home for local programming, for the best quality, most entertaining, most engaging, most informative local content. And believe you me when I tell you, Dike, that we have quite a few initiatives underway to ensure that we are the home of the best local content in Trinidad and Tobago.
And we are in an industry where we know the value of a second. We can ascribe monetary value to it. So we do not take your time with us lightly. CEO David Roberts, CEO of TTT Limited, looking at state media at 60. This has been In Depth with me, Dike Rostant, on behalf of the entire team. Thank you so much for joining us.